You're standing in a hardware store, staring at a wall of generators. Different names, different colors, different prices, and you're making a decision that feels informed because the brands look different, so the machines must be different too. That logic makes complete sense. It's also exactly what the industry is counting on. There's a moment that happens to thousands of people every year. You open a generator you just paid $700 for, set it next to a neighbor's machine that cost $299, and realize something feels wrong. Not with the generators, with everything you were told about them. The cases match. The control panels mirror each other. The engine dimensions are identical. Pull both apart, and the internal architecture is, line by line, component by component, the same piece of equipment. Different badge, wildly different price. One machine. This is badge engineering, and in the portable generator market, it is not a fringe practice. It is the entire system. Here's what actually happens. A factory in China or Vietnam builds a base platform, a specific chassis, a specific engine displacement, a specific control board layout. That platform then gets distributed to American brand names who attach their own cosmetic panels, set their own retail price, and sell it as though they engineered it from scratch. The first pair most people discover is Generac and Westinghouse, two of the most purchased inverter generators in the mid-range segment. The Generac GP2200i and the Westinghouse iGen 2200 share cases that are physically identical. Same one, 2-gallon fuel tank. Same pull-start mechanism. Same internal layout when you remove the service panel. People who have torn both apart on forums and workbenches document it consistently. The only visible differences are the decals and one additional outlet on the Generac version. The price gap at retail runs $100 to $150. Sometimes more, depending on where you buy. But that's just the beginning of the list. Powermate, a brand that claims over 40 years of history, was acquired by Generac in 2014. Before that, it was owned by Italian company Pramac. The machine that carries the Powermate name today shares the same OEM platform circulating across multiple brands. Different story on the box. Same engine underneath. Then there's Pulsar, California-based, with distribution centers spread across the U.S. and production outsourced entirely to Asia. And here's where it gets particularly strange. Ford power equipment generators, the ones with that unmistakable blue oval on the casing, are manufactured and distributed by Pulsar Incorporated. The Ford name does something instinctive to your brain. Engineering heritage. American reliability. 2 in the morning, power out, everything in your house, depending on that machine humming in the driveway. That feeling is real. The connection to Ford Motor Company is not. The front says Ford. The factory tells a completely different story. You're not buying a generator. You're buying a story. And the story costs extra. There's a term engineers use when they talk about this. OEM, original equipment manufacturer. It sounds technical, almost boring. What it actually means, in this context, is simple. One factory builds the product and multiple companies put their name on it. The factory is the original manufacturer. Everyone else is just a distributor with a marketing budget. And the marketing budgets are substantial. Furman is a perfect case study in how this works. Founded in 1999, Furman Power Equipment presents itself as an American power brand. What the company rarely volunteers up front is that it operates as a wholly owned subsidiary of the China National Machinery Industry Corporation, one of China's largest state-linked industrial conglomerates. Furman is, functionally, a U.S.-facing distribution arm for Chinese manufacturing. The generators carry an American brand identity. The corporate structure tells a different story entirely. Now consider Durostar, a sister brand to Duramax, both operating out of Ontario, California. Durostar generators are manufactured in China, with design and service infrastructure maintained in the U.S. On the surface, that sounds reasonable. Plenty of legitimate companies operate that way. The problem isn't where it's made. The problem is what happens when nearly identical platforms circulate across multiple brand names at drastically different price points, and nothing on the packaging tells you that. The label tells one story. The supply chain tells another. Here's something concrete. Pull up the spec sheets for a Durostar DS4000S and compare them against similarly rated units from Furman and WEN, another brand whose entire generator line is manufactured overseas and sold primarily through Amazon and home improvement retailers. Same wattage class, same engine displacement range, same physical dimensions in several models. Different names, different prices. No disclosure anywhere on the box that these machines share a common origin. One leans hard into the value angle. Affordable, accessible, good enough. And for the price, the machines often perform adequately. But good enough sold at a price premium because the branding suggests otherwise is a different conversation. That's not value. That's margin extraction dressed up as a product line. What's quietly remarkable about all of this is how normalized it became. These aren't back alley knockoffs. They're sold at Home Depot, at Walmart, at Costco, through Amazon Prime with 2-day shipping and 5-star reviews. The distribution is completely legitimate. The opacity is the problem. The gap between what the branding implies and what the product actually is, and the price you pay to cross that gap. You hand over your money. You carry home a machine. And somewhere between the badge and the engine block, a significant portion of what you paid simply evaporated into the space between a story and the truth. The next brand on this list made a decision that takes this further. Much further. PowerMate deserves its own moment here, because the PowerMate story is not just about badge engineering. It's about what happens when a brand gets bought, rebranded, absorbed, and re-released into the market, carrying the emotional residue of a reputation it no longer fully owns. PowerMate claims over 40 years in the industry. That history is real. The problem is that the company changed hands fundamentally from Pramac, an Italian power equipment company, to Generac in 2014. Generac, the same brand already operating its own generator line, acquired PowerMate and kept the name alive as a separate label. Two brands, one parent company, overlapping platforms, different price points at the same retailer, sitting on shelves 3 feet apart, implying a competition that doesn't actually exist. That's not a market. That's theater. And Generac understood exactly what it was doing. The Generac name carries weight in the standby generator space. Whole home systems, automatic transfer switches, the kind of equipment homeowners associate with serious infrastructure. PowerMate carries a different emotional register. Rugged, legacy, working-class reliability. By maintaining both labels, Generac captures 2 separate buyer psychologies without needing 2 separate engineering teams. The machines underneath don't need to be radically different. The stories just need to feel that way. This is the part that should make you pause. Because when you're standing in that hardware store aisle, or scrolling through Amazon at midnight trying to figure out what to buy before a storm hits, you are not evaluating machines. You are responding to narratives. The orange of Generac signals one thing. The PowerMate logo signals another. The Westinghouse Heritage Badge, the Ford Oval, the Furman color scheme, all of it is a carefully constructed emotional environment designed to make you feel like you're choosing between genuinely distinct options. You are not. In several cases, you are choosing between different colored panels on the same engine, built in the same factory, assembled on the same line, shipped in different boxes to different retailers where they sit at different price points waiting for you to make a decision you believe is informed. There's one more brand that crystallizes this better than any other, and it's the one that most people least expect to find on this list. Not because it's obscure, because it's the one that carries the heaviest implied promise of all. The one whose name alone has convinced millions of buyers that they were getting something categorically different, categorically better, worth every extra dollar. That brand is Next. And once you see what's actually behind it, the entire generator market starts to look different. The brand is Champion, not in every model, not across its entire line, but in specific platforms, particularly in the 3,500 watt and above open frame segment. Champion and WEN share chassis designs that trace back to the same OEM origin. Side-by-side spec comparisons reveal matching engine displacements, identical frame geometries, and overlapping component layouts that aren't coincidental. They're structural. Champion built its reputation on something real. The brand invested in dual-fuel technology early, developed genuinely useful customer service infrastructure, and created products that performed reliably enough to earn strong word of mouth in the contractor and RV communities. That reputation is not fabricated, but reputation, once established, becomes its own kind of currency, and currency can be spent in ways that have nothing to do with the original value that created it. When you pay the Champion Premium, part of what you're paying for is that accumulated goodwill. The years of positive reviews. The sense that this brand has been tested in the field and came back standing. That feeling is worth something. The question is whether it's worth the price gap between a Champion and the functionally equivalent machine sitting 2 shelves down under a different name. In many cases, it isn't. So what do you actually do with this information? First, stop buying the badge. Start buying the spec sheet. Engine displacement, running watts versus peak watts, THD percentage for inverter models, fuel consumption at 25% load, warranty terms, and where service is actually performed. These numbers don't lie the way branding does. 2 generators with identical spec sheets, one carrying a premium name and one carrying a budget name, will perform almost identically in your driveway during a blackout. Second, if you want a generator that genuinely earns its price, the honest answer is Honda. The EU series exists in a different category, not because of the badge, but because of the engineering decisions behind it. Tighter manufacturing tolerances, proprietary engine technology, proven longevity data across decades of documented use. Honda costs more. Honda is also actually different. That distinction matters. Yamaha sits in the same honest tier. Quieter platforms, genuine inverter engineering, real performance differentiation. If the price feels high, it's because the machine underneath justifies it, not because the story on the box does. Everything else? Read the specs. Compare the platforms. Search the model number alongside the word OEM and see what comes back. The information exists. It's just scattered across forums and teardown videos and buyer communities that the industry has no interest in amplifying. You were never supposed to find this out. Now you have. And the next time you're standing in that aisle, staring at that wall of generators with their different colors and different names and different prices, you'll know exactly what you're actually looking at.